You were programmed to stay broke. Here's how to break free. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. You weren't born to struggle with money. But if you've ever felt like no matter how hard you work, you can't seem to break through, there's a reason. You've been following a script you didn't write. The truth is, most people don't realize they've been programmed. From the time you could walk, you were absorbing beliefs about money, success, and self-worth. They weren't announced with warning labels. They came disguised as advice, caution, and love. We can't afford that. Don't be greedy. Money changes people. These weren't just words, they were instructions. Lines of code silently downloaded into your subconscious, shaping the way you earn, spend, and save. Not based on truth, but on repetition. That's why change feels impossible. Because you're not just fighting habits, you're trying to override software that's been running for decades. But there's good news, code can be rewritten. This book isn't about hacks or hustle. It's not about working harder or pinching pennies. It's about exposing the invisible beliefs that have kept you stuck and giving you the tools to reprogram them for good. As Tony Robbins once said, the only thing that's keeping you from getting what you want is the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't have it. It's time to change the story. What you're about to read is a system. Not a motivational speech, but a mindset protocol. You'll learn to identify the lies, challenge them, and replace them with truths that build wealth from the inside out. You weren't born broke. But you were programmed to stay that way. Let's change that starting now. Chapter 1. The Money Code You Didn't Know You Had. You weren't born with beliefs about money. You were programmed. Like a phone that comes out of the box with default settings, you arrived in this world clean, open, and unburdened. But before you learned how to write your name, someone had already begun installing your financial software. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. Rich people are greedy. Each phrase was a line of code, entered quietly and repeatedly. You didn't question it, because you were too young to know you could. Like a sponge, you absorbed the language, tone, and tension in every money-related moment. That sinking feeling when the bills came. The arguments over spending. The hushed voices around expensive things. You learned more from what wasn't said than what was. Now here you are, an adult, capable, driven, maybe even hard-working. But stuck. Earning just enough to stay afloat. Saving a little, but never building. Hustling, yet not breaking through. You've tried the budgeting apps, the side gigs, the financial advice podcasts. Still, the needle barely moves. The frustration isn't just financial, it's existential. You start asking questions that sting. Am I just not cut out for wealth? Is there something wrong with me? There isn't. What's wrong is the code you're still running. Psychologists call it financial imprinting. These are subconscious beliefs absorbed in early childhood that become default operating systems. According to Dr. Bruce Lipton, a cell biologist who studied behavioral programming, the subconscious runs about 95% of your decisions by the age of 35. That means your current financial life is being driven not by your intentions, but by your internalized past. You're not failing, you're functioning exactly as programmed. Think of your mind like a thermostat. If your internal financial setting is programmed at 68 degrees, anytime you begin to heat up and earn or keep more, your system automatically cools you back down. Maybe an unexpected expense hits. Or you self-sabotage. Or you start feeling guilty about earning more than your parents ever did. These aren't coincidences, they're corrections. Your subconscious is returning you to the temperature it believes is safe. But here's the breakthrough. Thermostats can be reprogrammed. Beliefs can be rewritten. Patterns can be broken. That starts by recognizing this truth. Your financial state is not a reflection of your intelligence, effort, or worth. It's a reflection of your code. And code is editable. Imagine standing in front of two doors. Behind one is the life you've known, worry, paycheck-to-paycheck living, a constant low-grade anxiety about money. Behind the other is the unknown, but filled with possibility, agency, abundance, peace. The only key to that second door is awareness. Awareness of the script you inherited. Awareness of the thoughts you never chose but always followed. Once you see the code, you can challenge it. And once you challenge it, you begin to change. This journey won't be about quick fixes or surface-level tactics. It will be about the deep, quiet work of unlearning. It will ask you to confront not your finances, but your identity, who you believe you are and what you think you deserve. Because wealth isn't just a number. It's a mindset. And if you're ready, you can start rewriting that mindset now. In the next chapter, you'll uncover how beliefs, often unnoticed and unquestioned, shape every financial decision you make, and why until you confront them, no amount of money will feel like enough. You were subconsciously programmed with beliefs about money before you had the ability to choose them. These beliefs form a hidden operating system that drives your financial behavior. The good news: all code can be rewritten. What's one money belief you grew up hearing that you've never questioned until now? Write down 3 common money phrases you heard as a child. Highlight the one that feels most true, then ask, is this a truth or just repetition? Chapter 2: How Beliefs Become Financial Chains. Beliefs are invisible. You can't touch them, weigh them, or photograph them, but they govern your life with precision. Especially when it comes to money. What you believe determines what you notice, what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you avoid. Your financial results aren't random. They're reflections of your internal script, playing out in real time. Imagine a circus elephant tied to a tiny stake in the ground. As a baby, it was chained there with a strong rope. No matter how hard it pulled, it couldn't break free. Eventually, it stopped trying. Years later, as a full-grown elephant with enough strength to rip down a tree, it remains tied to that same small stake, now with a flimsy rope. Not because it lacks power, but because it believes it's trapped. That's how belief works. It's not just what you think, it's what you accept as non-negotiable. Your financial chains were formed the same way. Early failures or family struggles laid down the first links. Maybe your parents constantly stressed about bills. Maybe you were told, "We're just not those kinds of people," when you dreamed big. Each moment reinforced a belief: money is hard to get, wealth is for others, security is out of reach. Over time, you stopped pulling. Not physically, but mentally. You began to settle. You didn't lose ability, you lost belief. Beliefs operate like filters. 2 people can look at the same opportunity, starting a business, asking for a raise, investing, and see completely different realities. One sees potential, the other sees risk. One sees possibility, the other sees rejection. It's not the opportunity that differs, it's the lens. That lens is belief. And it's not formed by logic. It's formed by repetition, emotion, and environment. What you hear often, especially from trusted voices, becomes the software your brain defaults to. Neuroscientists have shown that beliefs physically shape brain patterns. Neural pathways are carved like grooves on a record, making it easier to think, feel, and act in the same ways over and over. That's why change feels hard. It's not just a decision, it's a neurological rewrite. But this is also why repetition and conscious reprogramming work. You can't erase the old track, but you can lay down a new one, louder and clearer, until the old one fades. This is why financial advice alone doesn't work. You can follow a budget and still overspend. You can make more money and still feel broke. Because if your beliefs haven't shifted, your behavior will always circle back to your baseline. True financial transformation doesn't start with numbers, it starts with narratives. The story you tell yourself about what's possible, what's allowed, and what you're worthy of. A man once inherited a fortune he didn't know existed. For years he struggled, worked odd jobs, and lived in poverty, unaware that a massive inheritance had been left in his name. The money was always his, but until he believed it existed, he couldn't access it. That's the power of belief. Your future wealth may already be available, waiting behind doors your mind won't open yet. But belief isn't built in a day. It's not an affirmation whispered once and forgotten. It's a conscious commitment to replace old chains with new truths. Every time you act in alignment with possibility instead of fear, you forge a new link. Every time you speak an empowering belief instead of repeating inherited lack, you loosen the rope. Eventually, the stake no longer holds you. Next, you'll learn how to spot the actual script running in the background of your life. Because before you can change the story, you have to hear it clearly. Beliefs aren't just thoughts, they're unconscious rules that shape your financial behavior. Most financial limits are not external, they're internal chains built over time. Rewiring beliefs requires repetition, emotion, and conscious action. What financial stake are you still tied to that no longer has the power to hold you? Write down one financial goal you've dismissed as not realistic. Then ask, who told me that? What if they were wrong? Chapter 3: Spotting the Script, Your Inner Money Dialogue. You don't hear it out loud, but it's always talking. That voice inside your head, the one narrating your choices, reacting to your decisions, offering commentary before, during, and after you interact with money, is your inner script. And it's been with you for decades. Most people never notice it. But if you want to change your financial reality, you have to start listening. Every time you check your bank account and feel panic before you even see the number, that's the script. When you think about investing but immediately hear, "That's too risky, you'll lose everything," that's the script. When someone offers to pay you more than you expected and you feel unworthy or awkward, the script is running. It's not logic, it's conditioning. The script was formed through emotion, repetition, and inherited beliefs, and it now plays like background music in your financial life. You've heard it so often, you don't even question it. But what if it's lying? The most dangerous thing about internal scripts is how normal they feel. They don't shout, they whisper. Don't spend too much. You'll never get ahead. People like us don't make it big. These phrases sound responsible or humble, but they're often masks for fear, shame, or generational limitation. The subconscious mind is a master of disguise. It protects you by keeping you safe, which often means stuck. Safe from judgment, failure, change. But safety isn't freedom. To change your script, you first have to isolate it. Not in theory, but in practice. Start by noticing your emotional responses to money. Not just what you think, but what you feel. Do you get anxious before checking your account? Do you feel guilt after spending on yourself? Do you feel envy or resentment when others succeed financially? These aren't random emotions, they're signals. And every signal points to a belief. Your job is to trace the emotion back to the script that triggered it. For example, someone asks you to quote a price for your work. Instantly your heart races. You lowball yourself without thinking. Why? Because the script says if you ask for too much, they'll walk away. Or you're not worth that kind of money. Until you expose the script, the behavior keeps repeating. But once you see it, you gain power. Naming the voice weakens its grip. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending money doesn't matter. It's about reclaiming authorship of your mind. Financial freedom begins with mental freedom. You can't rewrite a story you don't realize you're living. But when you identify the lines that were written for you, you can start replacing them with lines you choose. Psychologists call this process cognitive restructuring, the act of bringing subconscious thoughts into conscious awareness so they can be examined and replaced. It's not just theory. It's rewiring. It's how trauma is healed, behaviors are changed, and financial destinies are altered. The truth is, most people live their entire lives according to someone else's script. A parent's fear. A teacher's warning. A culture's limit. But you are not required to keep reading the same lines. You can edit the script. You can write a new story. In the next chapter, we'll look at where the original programming came from, and why even well-meaning people may have passed down ideas that now hold you back. Your internal money script runs silently but shapes every financial decision. Emotions around money, fear, guilt, shame, are clues pointing to hidden beliefs. Once identified, scripts can be rewritten with intention and clarity. What financial decision triggers the strongest emotion in you? And what belief might be hiding behind that emotion? Write down 3 recurring thoughts you have around money. Next to each one, write the feeling it creates, and ask, who taught me this, and is it still true? Chapter 4: Inherited Lies, The Origins of Scarcity Thinking. You weren't born thinking money was scarce. You were taught to believe it. Scarcity isn't a personality trait, it's a mindset passed down, like a family recipe, with ingredients you never chose. Most people don't realize their beliefs about money didn't start with them. They began in living rooms, classrooms, and dinner tables long before they ever earned a paycheck. Picture a child watching their parents say no to something simple, a new pair of shoes, a school trip, even a toy at the store, not because it was unreasonable, but because we can't afford it. That phrase becomes more than an explanation. It becomes a definition. The child begins to associate desire with denial, aspiration with anxiety. Even if the parent was doing their best, the emotional imprint left a message: money is hard, limited, and never enough. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Parents, teachers, and communities often pass down what they themselves were taught. Many came from environments shaped by survival, not abundance. So they raised children with caution, not possibility. They said, don't get your hopes up, not to crush dreams, but to protect from disappointment. They warned, stick with what's safe, not to limit, but to shield. But over time, protection can become programming. And what was once spoken as a warning becomes absorbed as a rule. Scarcity thinking doesn't just show up in spending. It hides in your assumptions. You assume success comes at a cost to others. You assume there's a cap on how much you can earn. You assume wealthy people must have done something shady to get ahead. These aren't facts. They're inherited stories, beliefs passed from people who never questioned them either. In psychology, this is called generational scripting. It's how patterns of belief and behavior get passed from one generation to the next, often without a word being spoken. You don't just inherit eye color or height. You inherit fear. You inherit shame. You inherit silence. Especially around money. Many families never talked about it openly. So you filled in the blanks with what you saw and felt. And what you saw was usually lack. The result? You grow up thinking it's noble to struggle. That hard work without wealth is virtuous. That wanting more makes you greedy. These lies become identity. And identity is powerful. You stop asking for more because you think you're not that kind of person. You settle for less because you believe it's what people like you do. But none of this was your idea. It was inherited. And anything inherited can be returned. Start questioning the source. Who told you money was evil? Who said it was selfish to want more? Who convinced you that security was the ceiling, not the floor? When you trace the belief back, you often find someone who was afraid, not informed. Someone who was trying to keep you safe, not stuck. When you see that, you can break this cycle without dishonoring the people who shaped you. This isn't about rejecting your roots, it's about replanting them in better soil. You get to choose what beliefs you carry forward. You get to decide which scripts serve your future and which ones are quietly sabotaging it. Scarcity is not your legacy unless you choose to keep it. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to rewrite the script, practically, intentionally, and powerfully, so that it reflects not your past, but your potential. Most scarcity thinking is inherited, not chosen. Generational beliefs often come from protection, not truth. You can honor your past while choosing a new financial future. Which beliefs about money have you accepted simply because they were passed down to you? Write down one common money phrase you heard growing up. Under it, write an empowering belief that could replace it, one rooted in abundance, not fear. Chapter 5: Rewriting the Narrative, Belief by Belief. Every belief is a sentence you've heard so many times it began to sound like truth. But beliefs aren't facts, they're just thoughts you've accepted. If they were learned, they can be unlearned. If they were installed, they can be replaced. The question isn't whether your beliefs are strong. The question is whether they're serving you. And if they're not, it's time to rewrite them, one by one. Start with the ones that show up most often. The phrases you repeat without thinking. The thoughts that surface when you make money, spend money, or think about people who have more than you. Write them down. All of them. I'm not good with money. I'll never be rich. If I get ahead, something bad will happen. These may feel subtle, but they drive your behavior like code runs a program. Once the beliefs are visible, challenge them. Ask, is this belief absolutely true? Who gave it to me? What evidence supports it, and what evidence contradicts it? Most beliefs fall apart under pressure. They aren't rooted in experience, just repetition. Your brain, like a courtroom, needs cross-examination. It's been accepting testimony from fear, shame, and limitation for years. Now it's time to call in a new witness, truth. Truth sounds different. It feels expansive, not restrictive. Money is hard to make. Becomes money flows to those who solve problems. I'm bad with money becomes I'm learning to manage money wisely. This isn't delusion. It's direction. You're giving your brain a new map. And maps matter because your mind is always looking for alignment. If it believes money is dangerous, it will unconsciously avoid it. If it believes wealth is a tool for good, it will seek it with clarity and confidence. Rewriting a belief isn't just about words, it's about repetition. Think of beliefs like grooves in a record. The deeper the groove, the more the needle stays in it. You can't remove the old groove. But you can start carving a new one. Every time you speak an empowering belief, you reinforce the new path. Every time you act in alignment with that belief, the groove deepens. Eventually, it becomes the new default. One of the most effective tools for this is written reprogramming. Write your old beliefs on the left side of a page. On the right, rewrite them in a way that aligns with truth, abundance, and possibility. Don't just write what sounds good, write what feels freeing. Then read the new beliefs aloud daily. Morning and night. Let your own voice become the programmer. This practice is backed by neuroscience. Studies show that repetition, especially when combined with emotion and visualization, creates new neural pathways in the brain. You're not just saying new things, you're building a new brain. One capable of receiving, managing, and multiplying wealth. But it starts with permission, the permission to believe something better. Remember, you're not affirming what's already true. You're affirming what's becoming true. This is about direction, not perfection. You don't have to feel it fully for it to work. You just have to be willing to plant the seed. Because what you speak often becomes what you expect. And what you expect shapes what you pursue and receive. Next, you'll learn how to take those new beliefs from theory to action. Because belief without movement is just hope. And hope without steps keeps you stuck. Beliefs are learned, not fixed, they can be rewritten. Challenge old beliefs by questioning their truth and replacing them with empowering alternatives. Repetition and aligned action are key to rewiring your financial mindset. What's one belief you've been carrying that you're now ready to challenge and change? List 3 limiting money beliefs you've identified. Rewrite each one with a new, empowering statement, and speak them aloud twice today. Chapter 6. Delete the default. Acting against the old code. Transformation doesn't happen when you think differently, it happens when you behave differently. You can read every mindset book in the world, rewrite your beliefs, and repeat affirmations until you're blue in the face. But nothing changes until your actions contradict the old code. Action is the delete key. It interrupts the loop. It signals to your brain and your body that the story is no longer valid. And the more often you act in defiance of your old programming, the more power it loses. Your subconscious is wired to keep you safe, not successful. It would rather you stay in a familiar struggle than risk an unfamiliar breakthrough. That's why you'll feel resistance when you try to do something new with money. The resistance isn't a sign to stop. It's a sign you're on the edge of reprogramming. That hesitation you feel when asking for a raise, starting the business, or investing in yourself, that's your internal code trying to run its usual script. But every time you take the leap anyway, you create a new command. These actions don't need to be dramatic. They just need to be different. If you normally avoid looking at your bank account, open it today. If you've been undercharging, raise your price by 5%. If you always say, I can't afford it, shift to asking, how can I afford it? These aren't just financial decisions, they are identity declarations. You're proving to your subconscious that you are no longer available for the same old limitations. Neuroscience backs this up. Every time you act in a new way, you activate a different neural pathway. The more you use that pathway, the stronger it becomes. That's how habits are formed, not by hoping, but by doing. When you behave differently, your brain rewires itself to support that behavior. But it doesn't happen all at once. Repetition is the rewiring tool. One bold act won't erase years of programming, but it will start the override process. This is why knowledge without movement keeps people stuck. You can intellectually understand that you deserve more and still make decisions from a place of lack. Because the shift hasn't moved from your head to your hands. You haven't taken the action that proves the belief is real. Belief becomes embodied through repetition, and repetition begins with the first courageous step. It's also important to track your progress. Document your wins, no matter how small. Write down every moment you acted against the old code. The first time you said no to a low-paying job. The first time you invested in your growth. The first time you asked for more. These are milestones, not just memories. They are proof points. And when doubt tries to creep back in, you can look at those moments and say, I've already started becoming someone new. You don't need to wait until you're confident. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to move. Momentum is more valuable than motivation. The act of doing something new shifts your state faster than any pep talk. So don't just read about change. Don't just think about change. Live it. Break the pattern by breaking the routine. In the next chapter, you'll confront the emotional blocks that fight to keep the old code alive, fear, guilt, and shame, and learn how to disarm them before they sabotage your momentum. Action deletes old beliefs more effectively than thought alone. Small, bold steps signal to your subconscious that change is happening. Consistent action creates new neural pathways and builds a new identity. What's one action you can take this week that your old programming would never have allowed? Choose one money-related decision you've been avoiding. Take one step toward it today, no matter how uncomfortable. Chapter 7: Fear, Guilt, and Shame, Emotional Malware. Reprogramming your beliefs isn't just about changing thoughts, it's about confronting the emotions buried underneath them. Fear, guilt, and shame are the emotional malware of your financial operating system. Left unchecked, they corrupt your confidence, distort your decisions, and keep you loyal to limitations that no longer serve you. These emotions aren't random, they're installed, reinforced, and inherited. Fear is usually the first to appear. It whispers warnings every time you consider expanding. What if you fail? What if you lose everything? What will they think? Fear is persuasive because it disguises itself as logic. But its real agenda is control. It wants you safe, not free. It points to your past, highlights every mistake, and exaggerates every risk. The result is paralysis. You keep your head down, take the safer path, and call it wisdom. But in truth, fear has hijacked your growth. Then comes guilt. Guilt tells you that wanting more is wrong. That having money means you're selfish, or disloyal to your roots. If you were raised around lack, success can feel like betrayal. You may feel uncomfortable earning more than your parents ever did, or guilty spending on things they would have never considered. Guilt keeps you shrinking, apologizing for progress, and secretly sabotaging the very breakthroughs you worked for. It makes you believe you have to choose between prosperity and integrity, when the truth is you can have both. Shame is the heaviest of all. It says, not only did you mess up financially, you are the mess. Shame attaches failure to identity. It convinces you that past mistakes define you, that you're bad with money, irresponsible, or incapable. It shows up in overdraft fees, debt you've hidden, or years spent avoiding the conversation altogether. And because shame thrives in silence, it keeps you isolated. You don't ask for help. You don't share your struggle. And so the story never changes. These emotions aren't just painful, they're programmed. You absorb them from early experiences, family dynamics, cultural narratives. Maybe money was a source of stress growing up. Maybe you watched your parents fight about it, or felt judged for not having enough. These moments left emotional imprints. Over time, those feelings became associations. Money equals tension, desire equals danger, success equals separation. But emotions, like beliefs, can be rewritten. Not by ignoring them, but by meeting them with truth. Start by naming what you feel. Don't just say you're bad with money. Ask what's underneath that. Is it fear of making a mistake? Guilt for wanting more? Shame from a past decision? Once the emotion is clear, speak truth to it. Fear says, you'll fail. Truth says, failure is part of growth. Guilt says, you don't deserve this. Truth says, you're allowed to thrive. Shame says, you are the problem. Truth says, you are not your past. Neuroscience shows that naming emotions reduces their power. It shifts activity from the emotional brain to the rational brain, giving you back control. You don't need to eliminate fear, guilt, or shame to move forward. You just need to stop letting them drive. Reprogramming is emotional work as much as it is mental. It requires honesty, patience, and self-compassion. You're not weak for feeling these things. You're human. But you're also powerful. And once you understand how these emotions operate, you can stop obeying them. In the next chapter, you'll discover how to reinforce your new programming with daily habits and mental exercises that train your mind to operate from abundance instead of lack. Fear, guilt, and shame are emotional malware that limit financial growth. These emotions are often inherited or learned, not based on truth. Naming and confronting them reduces their power and creates space for healing. Which emotion, fear, guilt, or shame, most often influences your financial decisions, and where did it come from? Write a short letter to that emotion, stating clearly, I see you. I know why you're here. But I no longer follow your lead. Chapter 8. Building a New Operating System, Daily Mindset Practices. Changing your beliefs isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Just like a computer needs updates to stay functional, your mind needs consistent input to operate on a new level. Reprogramming doesn't happen because you had one breakthrough moment. It happens because you choose, every day, to feed your brain new commands. Repetition builds recognition. Recognition builds belief. Belief changes behavior. And behavior builds results. Think of your old money beliefs as an outdated app that still runs in the background. Even if you're not actively using it, it drains your energy and influences your choices. The solution isn't to fight the old app, it's to install a new one so powerful that it overrides the default. That's what daily mindset practices are. They aren't motivational fluff. They're system-level rewrites. They form the new core of your financial identity. Start with affirmations, but not the kind you repeat mindlessly. Effective affirmations are believable, bold, and behavior-linked. Instead of saying, I'm a millionaire, when your rent is overdue, say, I'm learning how to create value and attract abundance. That statement is honest, empowering, and aligns with growth. The key is to speak affirmations with intent, emotion, and frequency. Your subconscious doesn't respond to volume, it responds to consistency. Visualization is another tool that sharpens belief. Olympic athletes have used it for decades to improve performance. They mentally rehearse every step of their event, engaging the same neural pathways used during physical execution. The same applies to money. When you visualize yourself making empowered financial decisions, negotiating well, investing wisely, living free, you train your brain to accept that future as familiar. And what's familiar feels safe. That's how the mind begins to shift. Journaling is another daily habit that rewires thought patterns. Write down the old belief, then its opposite truth. Reflect on where the belief came from and what it has cost you. Follow it with a declaration of what you now choose to believe. This isn't just reflective, it's active reprogramming. Studies show that writing by hand activates multiple parts of the brain, creating deeper cognitive shifts than typing or thinking alone. Gratitude, though often overlooked, is a powerful tool in the abundance toolkit. It's not just about being thankful, it's about training your brain to notice what's right. When you shift your attention to what you already have, you stop reinforcing lack. This doesn't mean ignoring financial goals, it means building them on a foundation of enough, not emptiness. Scarcity whispers, never enough. Gratitude responds, More than I thought. That shift in perception changes what you attract. Another key practice is environment auditing. Your mental operating system is influenced by what you consume. If your feed is filled with fear, drama, and scarcity narratives, your mindset will reflect that. Curate your inputs like your future depends on it, because it does. Read books that expand your vision. Listen to voices that challenge your limits. Follow people who reflect where you want to go, not just where you've been. Together, these practices form a new loop: input, belief, behavior, result. The more you reinforce the input, the more you shift the belief. The more you shift the belief, the more your behavior changes. And when behavior changes, so does your financial reality. In the next chapter, you'll learn why the people around you may be the most powerful influence on your wealth, and how to upgrade your environment without losing yourself. Daily practices like affirmations, journaling, and visualization reprogram your subconscious. Your inputs shape your beliefs, and your beliefs shape your results. A consistent mindset routine builds a new financial identity. Which daily habit could help reinforce your new money beliefs, and what stopped you from starting it? Commit to one mindset practice, affirmations, journaling, or visualization, for the next 7 days. Track your emotional shifts, not just outcomes. Media feed, podcasts, and mentors. What do they say about money? Do they view wealth as a tool or a trap? Do they celebrate growth or mock it? Do they speak the language of abundance or scarcity? These voices matter. Not because you're weak-minded, but because you're human. Mirror neurons in your brain are constantly absorbing and mimicking the behavior and energy of those around you. You don't just learn from people, you become like them. If everyone in your life complains about money, struggles with it, or believes success is reserved for others, that mindset becomes the norm. Not because it's true, but because it's familiar. Familiarity breeds comfort. And comfort, while soothing, is the enemy of transformation. You will unconsciously align with the dominant frequency of your environment, unless you interrupt it. This doesn't mean cutting people off. It means becoming intentional. Identify who drains your belief and who fuels it. Notice which conversations leave you doubting yourself, and which ones stretch your vision. Spend more time with people who normalize success, who talk about investing, building, and creating without apology. Even if you don't know them personally, their influence can still shape you. Books, videos, interviews, these are virtual mentors. Their stories become mental scaffolding for your own expansion. Environment also includes your physical space. Does your home inspire order and possibility, or clutter and chaos? Do you treat your workspace with intention, or is it a place of stress and avoidance? The way you manage your space reflects the way you manage your mind. Small changes, a clean desk, a vision board, a journal in plain sight, create subconscious signals. They remind you that you are not your past. You are the architect of your future. And then there's language. Pay attention to how money is spoken about in your presence. Words carry energy. Jokes about being broke, constant talk of struggle, self-deprecating humor about wealth, these reinforce the old code. Stop laughing at limits. Start speaking with authority, even if your circumstances haven't caught up yet. Language leads energy. Energy leads action. Action leads outcomes. This process doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness. Every time you choose a new conversation, a new book, a new thought, you're editing the story. You're saying, that version of me was real, but it's not final. The script may have started with someone else, but it ends with you. In the next chapter, you'll dive into the final transformation, becoming the person who naturally attracts, manages, and multiplies wealth, not just through habits, but through identity. Your environment, people, spaces, and conversations shapes your financial mindset. You absorb beliefs through observation and repetition, often without realizing it. Intentional upgrades to your circle and surroundings reinforce your new programming. Who in your environment reinforces scarcity, and who helps you believe in more? Audit your top 5 influences: friends, media, mentors. Replace one that limits you with one that inspires possibility. Chapter 10: The Wealth Identity. Becoming who you need to be. Wealth is not just something you build, it's something you embody. It's not only about having more, it's about becoming more. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. If you still see yourself as someone who struggles, who survives, who just gets by, no amount of strategy will override that self-image. The key to lasting financial transformation is becoming the kind of person who sees wealth as normal. This doesn't mean pretending. It means upgrading your internal definition of who you are and what you're allowed to have. Identity is the deepest layer of belief. It's the story you tell yourself about who you are and what your life is supposed to look like. If your identity is rooted in scarcity, even massive opportunity will feel like a threat. You'll avoid it, sabotage it, or mismanage it, not because you're incapable, but because it doesn't match your internal image. Think about thermostats again. If you've lived at a setting of barely enough for years, wealth will feel like overheating. Your system will try to cool things down. That's why lottery winners often lose everything. The money changed, but the identity stayed the same. They didn't see themselves as wealthy, so they couldn't sustain wealth. But identity can evolve. You don't have to fake confidence. You can grow into it. Start by asking who you would be if scarcity was no longer part of your story. How would you think, speak, and act if wealth was your default? What decisions would you make? What boundaries would you enforce? What habits would you maintain? Don't wait until the money shows up to live from that place. Live from that place now, and the money will have somewhere to land. This isn't about reckless spending or playing pretend. It's about congruence. When your actions, beliefs, and identity align, you become magnetic to the outcomes that match. If you constantly say, "I'm broke," your subconscious will make that true. But if you say, "I'm building wealth every day," and then back it up with intentional action, you rewire your default settings. You become a person who expects increase, not just hopes for it. Neuroscience supports this. The brain doesn't distinguish much between real and vividly imagined experience. When you consistently envision yourself operating as a wealthy individual, not just rich in money, but rich in confidence, generosity, and clarity, you activate the neural circuits that make that future more likely. Repetition forms identity. Identity drives behavior. Behavior creates results. That's why the goal is not to get rich. The goal is to become someone for whom wealth is natural. That shift happens in how you speak, how you show up, how you manage small resources. It's in the choices you make when no one is watching. When you identify as someone who honors money, you stop leaving it to chance. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become more of who you really are, before the programming took hold. In the final chapter, you'll tie everything together and learn how to live with a freedom-based protocol that doesn't just break you out of the old system, but keeps you free for good. Identity is the foundation of lasting financial change. When you embody wealth mentally and emotionally, you begin to create it physically. Aligning your self-image with your vision rewires your behavior and results. If you already believed you were someone who builds and sustains wealth, what would you start doing differently today? Write a short statement beginning with, "I am the kind of person who," and finish it with a trait aligned with your wealth identity. Read it aloud twice today. Chapter 11: Freedom Protocol, Living Wealth Reprogrammed. Freedom isn't just the absence of debt or the presence of money. It's the ability to make decisions without fear, to move through life without financial shame, and to build a future based on purpose, not survival. But freedom doesn't happen by accident. It must be designed, protected, and practiced. That's what the Freedom Protocol is, a way of living that reinforces the new programming, not just temporarily, but permanently. You've already done the hardest part, becoming aware. You've spotted the lies, challenged the beliefs, and acted against the old code. But transformation isn't a one-time event. It's a lifestyle. If you don't maintain the system, the default programming will try to reinstall itself. Scarcity is persistent. It waits for moments of stress, fatigue, or failure to slip back in. That's why you need structure. Freedom may feel spontaneous, but it's built on discipline. The protocol begins with awareness. Keep listening to your internal dialogue. When old scripts return, because they will, recognize them quickly. Don't shame yourself. Simply notice and choose again. Say the new belief out loud. Anchor it with action. The faster you respond, the weaker the old code becomes. Like a muscle, your response gets stronger with use. Next is alignment. Make sure your habits reflect your new identity. Are you budgeting like someone who builds wealth? Are you spending in a way that matches your values? Are you investing, learning, and growing consistently? Don't wait until the conditions are perfect. Freedom isn't found in waiting, it's built in motion. The people who live free aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who align belief with behavior, over and over again. Then there's community. You weren't programmed alone, and you won't stay free alone either. Stay in proximity to people who remind you of what's possible. Share your wins, your setbacks, and your goals. The right circle will hold you accountable not to your past, but to your potential. Find or create spaces where abundance is normalized and celebrated. That environment will become your anchor. Also, revisit the tools. Keep journaling your thoughts. Keep repeating your affirmations. Keep visualizing your next level. These aren't beginner exercises, they're advanced maintenance. The difference between temporary change and lasting transformation is often consistency. The more you revisit your programming, the harder it is for the old system to reboot. Finally, give yourself permission to evolve. The version of you who first picked up this book might not recognize the version you're becoming. That's a good sign. Growth means shedding identities that no longer serve you. It means walking away from beliefs, behaviors, and even relationships that keep you tied to scarcity. Letting go is not loss, it's liberation. You were not born to struggle financially. You were taught to. But you've learned how to unlearn. You've upgraded the code. You've rewritten the script. Now you walk in freedom, not just financially, but mentally and emotionally. And as you live out this new story, you won't just break free for yourself. You'll become the interruption in someone else's programming. You'll be proof that the cycle can be broken. This isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of a new protocol. One built on choice, awareness, abundance, and freedom. Now the question is no longer, what's wrong with me? The question is, what will I build now that I'm free? Freedom is a mindset and a system, not just a financial status. Lasting transformation requires daily awareness, aligned action, and supportive environments. Your new identity must be practiced, protected, and allowed to evolve. What does freedom now look like for you, and what will you do today to protect it? Design your personal freedom protocol. List 3 habits, 2 boundaries, and 1 belief that will guide how you handle money going forward. Take care and be well.